Okay, here we are. Go, huh?
Well, that was quick.
Well, I can teleport, So why did you need me here anyway?
Alright, it's gonna take me a couple minutes to get there because I gotta set it up for the audience, so, I don't know, just chill or something.
Ladies and gentlemen, hundreds of jokes die every day at the hands of hack internet producers, but you can help us stop the slaughter. Support the Save the Jokes Foundation today. For the price of a cheap cup of coffee every day, you can sponsor a joke and nurture it. Hold it in your hand and...
What are you doing?
Nothing, just start the show.
Before we really get started, I should mention this is a Patreon-supported show, and this is another high-tier request. It's going to have a little crossover with some previous episodes, but it's actually something that should be talked about in its own context, and it's in the title, Content Created by the Players. This could easily go a few ways, but I'm going to try to stick to a basic idea. Games built, maintained, created, or made by gamers, and not corporate entities. So we're not talking about large companies saying that we're building a community around this game. We're talking about the players saying, yeah, we'll take it from here.
Now, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here because I've already covered this before, but yeah, assuming that you give us the tools to do these things, we'll more than happily do it. And this goes way far back.
I really wasn't sure where to start here, because I could start with empty vessel toys, stuff like in the 50s, where I'm talking about dolls, action figures, the kinds that come with minimal storyline, and it's up to the kids to fill in the blanks. The history of G.I. Joe or Barbie is actually kind of fascinating as a chameleon act. Like during the Vietnam War, G.I. Joe made a subtle shift away from the military look and went to the adventure category. I'm drifting way off center here. Okay, so let's just stick to video games. One of the first video games that allowed user-made content was Excitebike on the NES. As level editors go, it was actually pretty easy to use, and you can run what you made right away, but ultimately it's kind of ephemeral. You can't really save or share your creation, and the same thing went for things like Lode Runner and other PC games. I remember a few BBS and DDAL meetups that involved handing floppy disks to people just to share what we would now call maps.
Not that most of you would know what a DDAL was, but that's okay, I'm old. But yeah, those were kind of the first community-driven games, but there really wasn't much of a community there, just because of lack of interconnectivity. Well, since I use this port. But yeah, there was one community, and let's see if I can... Let me turn the volume down here. Got a high-speed connection today.
Let's set the Wayback Machine to 1990s. Kind of. You're looking at a modern version of how to do this. It's a lot easier. And anyway, what you're looking at here is a MUD. That stands for a multi-user dungeon. This is the original MMO before the concept of modern MMOs. This is all text-based online gaming that was created by the players, for the most part. Most of these are sword and board based, but not exclusively. And yeah, this is how we used to do MMOs. You'd dial into your local server, you'd use Telnet to access a different server, and then you'd play over a modem that measured in bits per second. Now, MUDs actually go back to the 1970s, believe it or not, but I'm going to kind of pick this up from the 90s because this is really when I started. And yeah, you could form guilds, you would have raids, you would go into fights as groups, and it was all done in text, so it took a lot more concentration and a lot more typing. And most of my friends who were online savvy at the time were playing MUDs, and it was beyond the obsession level that you think of today. Imagine the most hardcore MMO player you think you know, double that, and maybe you're getting close.
Just to give you an idea, one of my old roommates used to dial into the VAX system in order to MUD. Okay, so I had to go to a weekend event, and I left on a Friday night. I come back on Sunday night, he's still sitting in the same spot. He's sitting on his bed, there's 3 or 5 empty pizza boxes sitting next to him, and he's just at that 1,000-yard stare as he's still tapping into the computer. He hadn't really slept, and the only thing he ate was that. And I said, well, why are you doing this? He said, because I want to reach Wiz level.
Once you reached Wiz level or Wizard level on a lot of these MUDs, you were basically granted permission to create your own areas. So you could make an entire in-depth dungeon, fully script out the monsters and their dialogue, and make your own quests and so on. For a lot of players, this was a big deal. Big enough to pull weekenders. I'm still not sure how he ordered pizza since he was on the dial-up the whole time and there were no cell phones, but I stopped questioning this years ago. It took actually having this community in order to drive innovations like this. Well, the internet becoming a thing, that was actually the biggest key. The Doom WADs, great example of this. Doom was designed to let players easily mod and make maps, and it didn't hurt that it was shareware and fans made public domain editing utilities. Yeah, online services like AOL, Delphi, Prodigy, CompuServe, that's what drove these communities in the first place. And, well, them and the Usenet, but yeah, that's starting to make me feel really old.
And I don't even want to talk about FTP. If I start talking about Gopher, people are going to go insane. So, this is all ancient history, right? There's no such thing as any kind of a fan-made game right now, right? Yeah, let's start with every indie game ever made.
I'm not saying this is true of all indie titles, but how many of these things are just labors of love? The best example I can think of, City of Titans. If anything, this is the gaming community giving the world's second largest middle finger to NCSoft. Sorry, the world's largest middle finger is actually stuck somewhere else, and I'll let you figure out where. I could make an argument that EVE Online is also community-driven too. Okay, I'll confess, I don't play EVE Online because I don't want to put in full-time job hours to a game in my spare time. But what I've seen of the game, yeah, it's pretty much player-ran. CCP does not step in, partially because I think they're kind of terrified to do so at this point.
And this isn't even counting fan-made... actually, this is a good time to bring this one up. Okay. All right, Creature, you're up.
It's about time you got back to me. It's getting so cold I had to find warmer clothing before my tail froze off.
You're covered in fur.
So are chihuahuas. Why don't you throw one of those into Canada and see how well it does?
All right, good point. So you're a Goha, right?
Yep, this is the Global Online Hockey Association, established in 2005 in Second Life and still going. They got games going here daily, and there's almost always somebody here practicing.
Now, it's important to know that this is not run by Linden Labs. You know, the people who run Second Life? Goha is run by hockey enthusiasts who wanted to play hockey in a virtual world.
Oh, so is that why you wanted to show this off? Because we could do this someplace warmer.
Okay, hang on. I know exactly where he went. How did I know?
Oh, come on. Can you blame me? Sunshine, sand, waves.
Yeah, big deal. So you wanted to spend time on the waves. Okay. I follow you now. I gotcha. Okay. So yeah, waves in Second Life are actually a really good example of this.
In a virtual geography sense, Second Life is a series of islands, so if you wander off in any given direction long enough, you're gonna find the ocean. And as the story goes, one Second Life user thought it looked a little plain, so she made waves. Small fluffy ones, pipes, and epics. No, seriously, it was called an epic wave. Now over the years, these waves have been improved, they've been made more realistic, surfable. And this is kind of the point here. I think this is why a lot of fan-based community content even exists. We say things like, we need waves, so we just make them. If given the tools, players will make things they want in virtual space or in games. Meanwhile, large corporations are having a committee meeting to discuss the focus group's reaction to an online survey, and they're really not accomplishing anything. The players are a larger base of resources, and we're more than happy to put in the work if we like the game enough.
You good out there for a while?
Woohoo!
Yeah, he's fine. So most games won't do things like this for legal reasons, and I can actually kind of understand why. Can you imagine a League of Legends champion being skinned out with corporate logos? Or actually even more fun, let's say they would work out a branding deal with like Pepsi, and then in retaliation the players all put Coke logos onto their champions. Just saying. But I think it even goes further than that. I don't think these people can let go.
I want to go back to branding for just a moment here. Everything that a company does has to inherently help their brand. Some games just can't abandon their brand, like DCU or Marvel. They have to answer to another company, so yeah, they're not going to open up the gates. However, other games don't want to just loosen their grip. I want you to imagine for a moment what would happen if World of Warcraft had an open color palette selector. I guarantee you'd see at least 10 Darth Kitties within 24 hours. Or if they allowed players to sculpt their own armor set, yeah, Guild Halo Kitty would storm the gates. The point is, they would lose control of the brand to some extent, and the look and the feel of their world would be compromised. So, in all reality, it's really not in their interest to give players the tools to do this kind of thing, and frankly, it takes a lot of guts for any company to allow its players to have any control of their game. So when I see a dungeon creator in an MMO, that's a company that says that they trust their community, but they also understand their audience. They get if that something exists and we want it, we'll be more than happy to make it. Because they also get that if they can't, well, we're just going to go somewhere else, or we're just going to make our own version now. Or I guess more correctly, that we enjoy participating in the story. I think this is why EVE Online is so popular. The storyline is from the players, not CCP. So personally, I would love to see more stuff like this.
It's one of the reasons I'm waiting to see how City of Titan goes, because I'm hoping this shakes things up. I'm hoping that this shows a lot of these big corporations that we don't need like community managers and contrived social media campaigns in order to just enjoy the games. But then again, I'm just a dreamer. You know, since I had the Second Life thing going, I should have talked about Disney.
Shh, don't say that, because if you say that word 3 times around here, the mouse shows up and he deresses you.
You know, it's funny how you mentioned that.